Welcome, Tarah, to EDTalks.
Hello, thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
Usually I start off, hey, it's Ed, welcome to EDTalks, but I wanted to make sure I got your name right. I love your name. It's a really pretty name. I love the next part of your name even more because I'm German and it's in my pronunciation will be Neujahr or New Year. Bryan is,
Yeah,
so super excited to have you as a guest because I was so lucky. So I'm a friends with Notable, the company, and I got to go to Noteworthy, which is like the annual conference. I think, what were you like in your first month as the
yeah,
chief marketing officer?
yeah,
And you get hired. And they're like, hey, our major conference of the year for our customers, our investors, our friends, our board, it's all you. And yeah, you pulled it off amazingly.
well, I'm fortunate in that there was a team that pulled it off.
Yeah.
So I walked into a fantastic team, a lot of coordination, a lot of working together at the same goal. Yeah, getting on stage, meeting people the first time literally on stage was an interesting way to do that, but I learned quickly. So
Yeah.
it was good.
Well, obviously, you're a polished professional because you spent so much time at Health Catalyst. You really helped that company grow from what is super small to what it is today. And you grew with that company, ultimately becoming the chief marketing officer and chief communications officer. And at the same time, you're president of the Utah HIMSS chapter. So you got a lot
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. Man, I love Health Catalyst. I love the people there. Dan Burton, the CEO, has been a huge mentor of mine, and has helped me so much in my career. So while it wasn't an easy decision to leave Health Catalyst, I think after 11 plus years, it was just time to get back into startup land, and I've been loving it.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of something I call go to grow. So sometimes
Mhm.
you grow within a company for sure. And that's an excellent example looking at your career there. But to get to that next level, sometimes you just got to go to grow. And it's not a bad
Yeah.
thing in everyone.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, no, it's been really
Cool.
great.
So one of our dinner conversations, we were talking about leadership and we were talking about women in leadership and women specifically in chief roles like yourself. And, is it still a struggle or not? And we sort of landed that it is still a struggle, that glass ceiling, if you will, has not been completely removed. And you just look at the numbers, tells the story, right? So I really wanted to break that down a little bit. So one, so I can learn, my audience can learn more, and then be super practical towards the end, like what can we do and what advice would you give? So tell us your journey and any obstacles that you ran into.
Yeah, it's been an interesting evolution in the way that sexism's played out over my career, just to be transparent and frank. When I was younger in my career, it tended more toward probably verging on like sexual harassment. So I was fired once from an HVAC company because I complained about sexual harassment, and things like that, as I was younger. And then there was a midpoint in my career when it actually came from other women where I was too young and I wasn't seasoned enough. And in my head, and then I started responding out loud eventually was, well, that's a temporary problem. Someday I'm not going to be too young. And then what? Right. And now, as I grow in my career, it's reflected more in how hard I notice women around the table, and myself included, have to fight and repeat ourselves to have our voices heard, and taken seriously. And I don't know that it's always an intentional thing for sure. And I'll talk about that a little bit when I talk about some practical advice, but it is still very much a reality. And I think that, as I grow in my career, while I'm not facing some of the more, physical aspects of some of the harassment, I think that sometimes the emotional or mental ones sometimes are just as frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to talk about this topic because it kind of made me mad actually. And then it makes me mad. And then two is like, dang, am I still doing something that, inadvertently or subconsciously, just the way maybe I was raised or the time period I was raised, I don't know. So that's why I love the topic because one, I want to help solve it, and because it does piss me off because as I mentioned, I have a lot of women in my life too, and I don't want that sort of thing to happen to them. And then two, it's like I want to learn, like, what am I doing wrong? If anything, probably am. So this is gonna be super helpful. So what are some practical things that people can do, allies or what have you, to make sure that this doesn't occur?
Well, the first thing is I really loved how you framed it from the unintentional standpoint, because I truly, truly believe a lot of it truly is unintentional. And I don't think anybody likes to think about themselves as sexist or biased in any kind of way. However, there's definitely unconscious bias that pops up. And so the biggest piece of advice that I give is to be intentional about your advocacy and the way that you're showing up in these spaces. And by that I mean question who's in the room and who are you listening to on a regular basis. Like, just that clearly sit here and say, okay, how many voices have I heard and who have I heard those voices from? I shared a little bit with you at the dinner when I won CMO of the year for Silicon Slopes. I caught up and kind of looked at this audience of all men and said to them, basically, hey, y'all, thanks for the award. However, I'm going to use this as a platform to tell you all, take a second and look at your calendars. And if your calendars are reflected of people that look like you, think like you, act like you, do the same things that you do, you are doing this wrong. And I believe that comes from intentionality. So being thoughtful, not beating yourself up, but it does take like very intentional, actionable steps to move the needle forward on this.
Yeah, those are really good ones. Like, and I love, Tara, how they're so practical in that. Yeah, just look at your calendar. Like, who are you spending your time with? Is it all men? If you're a man, is it all men? And making sure that everyone in your sphere of influence has opportunities, and it goes to hiring practices too.
Yes.
And I always say, I don't buy the thing about getting the best person, because you have to think about the team. You want to get the best person for the team, and if they're all looking the same, it's not going to be a very good team, even though they're all best individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Diversity is best interest for everybody.
So those are super, super practical. What advice would you give to daughters? So, or you could position it as daughters or women who are younger in their career and looking to be chief like you. So what are some practical things?
Yeah. That's interesting because I probably would give different advice before I was a mom versus being a mom now. The advice that I want to give is, fight back, use your voice, advocate, don't take any guff from anybody. The more practical advice is actually to choose your battles, to know when do I need to show up as that strong, assertive woman, and when can I actually get farther by playing the game a little bit and knowing when is the right time to back off to strategically then be able to fight another day and to fight longer and harder in a different kind of way. It's not advice I would have taken when I was younger, but as I've, advanced in my career, seen what has happened to other people, seen what's worked well for me, that is what I'm telling my daughter, who is a firecracker. God help me.
Well, of course she is. I could have predicted that. So no, that's awesome. That is super, super practical advice. And it's great that people have role models like yourself, but we need many more others, as we've been alluding to this whole time, so that it becomes something that we don't need to talk about in the future. That'd be the ultimate goal, because everyone has the equal opportunity to succeed and become chief of anything that they want. So, Tara, this has been great. We have time for another question, so I want to hit you with a question. Tell us about Utah HIMSS.
Yeah, so Utah HIMSS is a group of amazing individuals that really are looking to. Let me back up a minute. The health systems and the technology in Utah are actually really world class, which is,
Wow.
I didn't know that until I moved to Utah, whatever, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago. And Utah HIMSS is in this unique position where we're small enough and that we all kind of know each other and we know the different companies, but we're big enough in that there's a reason that we're called Silicon Slopes now. And so Utah HIMSS is making strides at bringing that together in a more cohesive way so that we're all learning from each other, learning best practices. We have world-class health systems here in Intermountain, for example, the U also. And so we're looking for like spaces and places to bring people together, share best practices, advance technology. And Utahns also know how to have a good time, but minus the alcohol, which I'm not used to as a Montanan. Like, that took some adjustment. But it's really been a fun atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to seeing it continue to grow.
Yeah, that's cool. I need to make my way out there sometime. But I love Utah. I love everything about it. And I appreciate you being our guest and really sharing from your heart some super practical things to address, something super serious. So thank you again for being my guest on EDTalks.
Well, I appreciate you. This has been a lot of fun.